In this section, we are going to learn how to fill in the ET1 claim form. I will now take you through the claim form step by step and explain to you what each section means and how to fill in the relevant section. Let's look at the document first. This is ET1 Claim Form. As you can see, this consists of 15 pages. I'm quickly scrolling down. Here it says page 15 at the end. This is page 14, page 13, about diversity monitoring questionnaire. And so essentially it is up to page 12 that you need to fill in to submit your claim form. This is optional questionnaire. The last 3 pages, 13 to 14, are confidential and only for diversity monitoring. This means that the first 12 pages are the actual ET1 claim form. Please note, when you submit your claim online, the final copy will look similar to this document and will be delivered to the employment tribunals in this format. But when you go to online link, you will have to submit your claim form in separate sections, but the end result that will be delivered to the employment tribunals will look like this. The form consists of 15 sections. As you can see, the document is entitled Claim Form. At the bottom left-hand side corner, you can see ET1 Claim Form. ET stands for Employment Tribunals. As you can see further, under the title Claim Form, there are some questions marked with asterisk. As it says here, you must complete all questions marked with an asterisk, as you can see here. For example, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5. 1.2 is your first name, 1.3 your surname or family name, 1.5 is address, and then if we go on, the other marked with asterisk are section 2.1. This is your employer's name. 2.2 is your employer's address. 2.3 asks you about ACAS early conciliation certificate that we discussed in our first section. If you haven't done so, please go back and watch this lecture. Further sections which are marked with asterisk are I'm going to quickly jump on to that section page. It should be 8.1 and 8.2. You see, this is section 8.1 at page 6. It asks you about type and details of claim. We will go through these one by one, but just for introduction purposes, this is 8.1 marked with asterisk, and that is 8.2. This is also marked with asterisk. What it means is that these are the compulsory section that you must fill in for your claim to be valid. What you can do is, if for example you've got more detail in 8.2, you can state see the attached file, and that will do. Now let's go through each section starting from the top. Section 1, 1.1 is about title, Mr., Mrs., whatever you prefer. 1.2, in this section you put your full first name and any middle names. 1.3, your surname or family name. Give this in capital letters, that's recommended, in capital letters. 1.4 is your date of birth and your gender. 1.5 is your address. Please enter your full address, including your postcode and county. 1.6 is your phone number, including the city dialing code if landline. 1.7 is your mobile phone number. 1.8, if you have, this asks you about what would you prefer for contact purposes. If you have email address, tick that box, as this is generally also more confidential compared to post. However, please note that this will not always be possible to send you documents via email. For example, there are a large number of documents. They will be posted to you. 1.9, here you give your email address. Make sure that it is correct and clearly legible. 1.10, you may not need this unless you have fax number. 1.11, this is a new section and requires your consent. There is a link provided on the right, as you can see here, which gives you further guidance about telephone and video hearing. If you have access to internet, you may prefer to take part in a hearing by video. If you do not have access to the internet, or you do not want to take part via video link, you may take no. However, given the circumstances, your case may be delayed. Most of the hearings are now taking place. While I was making video for this ET1 claim form, the Employment Tribunal's President, Judge Barry Clark, had recommended that all hearings should be via video link unless it is in the interests of justice to have in-person hearings. So this is very important. The Employment Tribunal system at the moment is clogged and there are significant delays in the cases. Previously, it used to take around 6 to 8 months to conclude the claim. However, these days it is taking 1 year to 2 years, and this may get worse. Given that you are listening to this video, you may prefer to take yes. However, someone who might need your help may not have access to the video equipment. Section 2. Section 2 is about the respondent's details. Primary respondent is your employer that you have got claim, allegation, or complaint against. There could be individual respondents. Remember that, please. For example, managers, directors, which is discussed below. Please note, a lot of mistakes are made by the claimants in this section. 2.1 states, give the name of your employer or the person or organization you are claiming against. Who is the correct respondent? If it is anything other than discrimination allegation in general, it is always your employer. Who is your employer? For this, you need to look at your employment contract. If you work for small businesses, this may get confusing sometimes. If the person is a sole trader, then it is simple. It is that person who you are claiming against. However, most of the times small businesses have registered limited companies. It may well be that you have always dealt with a particular person who you always considered as Incoma's owner. May well not be the correct respondent or employer. Your payslip or P45 may also assist in finding out who the correct respondent is. If you have complaints against additional people, for example, a manager made discriminatory comments against you, you can also bring the claim against that individual or individuals. If more than one, if you were, say, harassed by a group of people. There are separate sections for further respondents where you can add those additional respondents. There are add sections if we go down 2.5 and 2.8. There is an important note in relation to this. You will have to notify ACAS separately in respect of all respondents. There will be separate ACAS early conciliation certificate for any additional individuals you are bringing your claim against. As you will see, sections 2.6, this one for example, and section 2.8 ask for these details. If you do not have ACAS conciliation certificate for each of the respondents, your claim will be rejected against those respondents. Now let's look at section 2.2. Give the respondent's full, preferably registered or main head office address. If you have worked at a different address, then make sure you provide that address in section 2.4. This is important because this determines which employment tribunal will deal with your claim. If your employer is based in London and you worked at Liverpool, then the hearing would take place at Liverpool or Manchester employment tribunals. Next section, 2.3. You of course in 2.2 you also provide phone number if you know. Section 2.3, give the early conciliation certificate number for the respondent you mentioned in section 2.2. If you claim exemption incorrectly, your claim will be rejected, and by the time you receive response, you may well be way out of time. There is a number given here for ACAS you can contact, and in separate video we have provided background and some introduction to ACAS early conciliation process. Please watch that video if you haven't done so already. Section 2.4, give the complete address of your workplace. We have discussed the importance of this under section 2.2. Sections 2.5 to 2.8, we have again discussed this earlier. If you want to bring claim against individual respondents or for more than one company, for example, you are not sure which company employed you, this will be relevant in 2P cases, for example, where the company was bought out by a new company and you are not sure which company to bring your claim against. You need separate ACAS conciliation certificate for all respondents. If one employee discriminates against or harasses another, the employer will generally be liable unless it has taken reasonable steps to prevent such conduct from taking place. The offending employee may also be liable. You can also use section 13 in this claim form. This is at page 10 and 11 to give details of any further respondents. Let's look at section 3. 3.1 asks about multiple cases. If you are aware there are any other claims against the employer, then your case may be linked to those other claims. If not, simply tick no. Section 4. Cases where the respondent was not your employer. This section is for those who are not employees or workers and are bringing claims against the respondent for some other reason. For example, job applicants who believe he or she was discriminated against because of her or his disability. Section 5. In this section, provide your employment details, whether you are still employed or your employment has been terminated. In 5.1, look at your contract of employment, which should state your start date. If you do not have a written contract, your first pay slip or first pay transfer to your bank may assist you to figure out your start date. There may also be some email, letter, or telephone call records that may assist you with finding the actual start date. In 5.1, you also need to provide if your employment has ended, and if it has not ended, or are you in a period of notice? If so, when will that end? Again, if there is a termination letter, your termination letter should contain those relevant details, or if you were verbally dismissed, then you would have received that information. Section 5.2. Here you can give your job title at the time of your dismissal and can briefly describe the nature of your responsibilities if you think this will assist to clarify your job. Your contract of employment may be old one or may not have this job title. Let's look at section 6, earnings and benefits. 6.1, this asks for your average hours. These hours may include your regular overtime. 6.2, how much are or were you paid? If you have added overtime, then you need to add pay for that overtime as well. Provide gross and net figures depending upon whether you are paid weekly or monthly. In subsection 6.3, if your employer has ended, did you work or were you paid for a period of notice? This is about notice. If there is no notice period specified in your contract of employment, then you are entitled to statutory notice of 1 week for each complete year of service. Subsection 6.4, this is about whether you were in your employer's pension scheme. You do not need to provide any details. However, you can add these losses into your schedule of loss or statement of particulars that you may wish to attach with your ET1 claim form. That is this document. We have also provided pro forma and templates of schedule of loss and statement of particulars that you can download at the end of this course or from the relevant section. 6.5 state here any other benefits you received from your employer, as it gives examples of company, car or medical insurance, etc. Next is section 7. If your employment with the respondent has ended, what has happened since? In 7.1, some claimants leave this empty. My view is that some claimants may feel reluctant to provide this information to their ex-employer. The copy of this claim form is sent to the claimant's ex-employer as they are the respondent. Moreover, say the claimant got the job soon after his or her dismissal, then he or she may not be able to recover much, as everybody will know the losses from day one. I have dealt with losses in a separate section and how to calculate them. Please watch a video in that section. Subsection 7.2, you need to provide start date here for your job that you secured after your dismissal or after leaving this employer. This will determine level of your compensatory award for unfair dismissal or automatic unfair dismissal. If the job is temporary and would end within a short period of time, provide details in section 8.2 of the form. 7.3 is to give the amount you're earning weekly, monthly or yearly. Section 8. This is the section where you need to provide details of your claim. The most important section from your claim point of view. Do not click just any box. As you can see, there are a number about unfairly dismissed, discrimination on the basis of different protected characteristics, redundancy payment, and if you are owed any other areas of wages or pay. There are separate sections on these types of claims within this course. Please look at that section to familiarize yourself with different types of claim. What is age discrimination? What is gender reassignment, for example, pregnancy or maternity, sexual orientation, unfair dismissal, constructive unfair dismissal. However, I must state here a very common mistake made by the claimants in this section. They usually mix up sexual harassment claims with sex discrimination claim. Sex discrimination, here for example, including equal pay, is a different claim to sexual harassment claim. If you are claiming discrimination because of your sex, you should not be claiming sexual harassment unless, of course, you have been a victim of sexual harassment. Let me give you the examples. Discrimination due to sex or sex discrimination is when a male employee is paid more than you because you are a woman. Other example would be if you need time off to look after your kids and are refused. This is discrimination due to sex or sex discrimination. Generally, sexual harassment, although it is again not limited to, but it is just so that you understand some difference and what is it that you are claiming. Sexual harassment might include inappropriate touching, remarks with sexual connotations, demanding sexual favors. Other examples may include failure to give you promotion because you refused dinner invitation from your boss. The point here is not to claim sexual harassment when you mean discrimination due to your sex or gender. If you are unsure, you can of course either seek legal advice or may prefer to claim this head of discrimination. Now back to section 8.1. First box is about unfair dismissal. This includes constructive unfair dismissal. You can only bring unfair dismissal or constructive unfair dismissal claim if you have at least 2 years service. It is called constructive dismissal when you resign yourself. However, you resigned because you thought your employer made you resign for some reason. For example, by doing some acts which damaged the trust and confidence that exists between the employer and an employee. Next box is about discrimination. If you have a discrimination claim, you specify those complaints in these boxes. Why do you think? In these boxes, these are called protected characteristics. If for any reason you are not sure which category your complaint falls under, you should tick the box to avoid any time limit issues. For example, you can claim pregnancy or maternity and sex discrimination together, or marriage or civil partnership with sex discrimination. If you are claiming disability discrimination, you will also be required to first prove you have a disability as required by the Equality Act 2010. Please refer to disability discrimination section within this course for how to deal with this step. Third box is if you are claiming redundancy payment only or redundancy payment in addition to other complaints. Next box is for if you are owed any payments. Make sure you calculate your amounts and keep a note of how you arrived at these figures. You can of course also take help from your pay slips in calculating these amounts. Fifth box is about making other types of claims. For example, whistleblowing claim that you suffered detriment because you made a protected disclosure. Please see again under types of claims for further details, where I have briefly introduced all these claims so that you are aware what is it and what is meant by these different discrimination, whistleblowing claims, etc. You should provide the events in chronological order, that is, in date order. What happened and who else was present. An important thing to remember is that you should not provide evidence of anything at this stage. For example, send documents, copies of emails or recordings, for example, to the tribunal. You just need to state facts. Although you do need to think about whether you can prove the allegations you are making in your claim form. A number of claimants send all the documents that they believe are relevant. This is not required and simply put extra burden on the tribunals. As you will learn later on, Employment Tribunal will make case management orders for the disclosure of documents, in that the claimants and the respondents, yourself and your employer, will be ordered to provide list and copy documents to other parties. You should only be stating facts and complaints in your ET1, that is this claim form, without sending any documents or statements from your friends or colleagues, etc., or character references, for example. You will be given time and there will be a stage where you will be asked to provide documents or evidence at a later stage. Section 8.2. Please follow the instructions. It clearly states that you should include the dates when the events you are complaining about happened. You can provide extra information at section 15, page 12. There is a separate section within the form that has been provided, so you can provide that information there. Here, start with the allegations, giving some background to that allegation to put things in perspective. You do not need to give every little detail, as you can do that in your witness statement once the tribunals have made case management orders. Again, there is a separate section within this course which deals with what the case management orders are and what are the requirements for you to comply. To help you with this, I have prepared a Scott schedule which you may use to detail your allegations, and can send the schedule along with your claim form. Please download from the downloadable document section at the end or within this section of this course. This was section 8 and page 7. Now let's look at section 9. What do you want if your claim is successful? This is where you tell what is it that you want from the tribunal if you are successful, and give details how you came to that figure. There is a separate section about compensation and schedule of loss in this course. Please go to that section to learn about this. Section 9.1. In section 9.1, there are 4 boxes. Tick the box that is relevant. However, please note that the tribunal does not have power to force your employer to give your job back. You can say here that I want to get my old job back or to get another job. This is something that your employer might consider, but the tribunal cannot force your employer to give your old job back. The tribunal can only award compensation for your losses. You may seek compensation only and may also tick a recommendation box. The tribunal may recommend your ex-employer to retrain staff, for example. Section 9.2. What compensation or remedy are you seeking? This is where you give details of your losses. This section is for all the losses you are claiming, for example, holiday pay, notice pay, areas of wages, including basic and compensatory award, which we have explained in a separate section within this course. Now let's look at section 10. This is if you have made a whistleblowing claim and wish to send a copy of your claim form to the relevant regulator, then you can tick this box. Almost always when the claimant make whistleblowing claim, they always tick this box. Section 11 is about the representative. If you are being represented by employment consultant, solicitor, barrister, the details will be put here. Next section is section 12. Do you have a disability? This is about disability. If you are making a disability discrimination claim, please tick this box to state you have a disability. I have seen a number of employees making a disability discrimination claim and then ticking no in this section. While this is not fatal to your case, employers have argued that the claimant accepts he or she has not got a disability. Not a big point, but has been picked on by the employers. You should also provide details of your disability. There could be more than one disability you might wish to rely upon, including physical and mental, for example, severe asthma as well as depression. Section 13. As we had discussed previously when we were discussing in section 2 about the respondents, you can provide details of further respondents in this section, and we have discussed this before. Please refer to again section 2 if you wish to refresh your knowledge about how to add further respondents. Section 14. Once you are satisfied with all the information you have provided, please tick this box. Section 15. Additional information. This section is for any additional information you wish to provide. If you have attached separate document, you can write the following in this box. Please see the attached rider. I just copy and paste here. Please see the attached rider, and then you can attach a separate document. At the end of this claim form, it is diversity monitoring questionnaire. As we discussed this during our introduction, these are the last 3 pages. Please take time to fill this in, as this assists government to provide better services, and this is good for everyone. Once you have filled in electronic form, do not forget to attach any extra RTF files, rich text format files. Print the form and send it to the address given in one of the preceding sections of this course. Let's now move on to our next video, where I am going to explain what are the further particulars of claim which you may wish to include as an additional document with your ET1 claim form we just discussed. Please do not forget to download the template from the downloadable section for these documents at the end of this course. See you in the next video.